So the objective of this training is to help as we prepare for learning assessments in our classroom. If you'll go to your computer site and log into seminary.lds.org, it'll bring you to your Seminary page. And we're going to work to do the learning assessment online, and we're going to invite students to take it at home, so it won't be during your class. That way they can use their home computers, or they can use their phones or tablets, or parents' phones or tablets. If you'd like to administer it in your classroom, you can. You definitely will review the test or assessment as a class once the students have taken it. But this way you could maybe turn it on to administer on a Sunday, and they could start then. Most of them will probably take that assessment then on the Sunday. And then if you need to, you have that week possibly to work on it. But what I'm going to show you today also, and more importantly, might be an opportunity to practice the learning assessment. It'll also knock out any kinks that you have and that they're going through with logging in or having problems to access. So once you're here at the Seminary site, the Seminary Teachers page, you'll click on Training. So training will give you an access then as you scroll down to the learning assessment. You'll see here the Seminary Learning Assessment. You also can access it when you go to Manuals. Let me show you up here for a second. When you go to Manuals, and you scroll down to Book of Mormon, you'll see it has learning assessments. So either way you prefer to go to it would be fine. As we're inside here for learning assessments now, this is where we've clicked on learning assessments on the page. There are training resources, best practices, the software itself. And just a reminder, if you click on this one, it's going to take you to la.ldschurch.org. LA represents learning assessment. la.ldschurch.org. And it'll take you straight to the software. At this point, though, you can look at some study guides. If you wanted to click on those, you could look at them. I'm not sure that's going to be as necessary if we show you the practice options. It's going to show you, though, which doctoral mastery passages we covered in the assessment. It'll show you the context and content questions that we covered. And it'll show you the doctrines and principles that would be covered. So it gives you everything you need in the study guide that will prepare the students for it. But as you've been teaching your lessons, as you've been going to the manual, you prepared your students doing that, so I would not be concerned about it. Let's just take a second and go ahead and go click on the learning assessment software. What's going to happen when you come onto this page is you'll get the stake that you belong to. And so for purposes of our group today, we're going to just go ahead and click on the e-stake. It's the first one up there. You'll only have, again, your stake. Once you click on it, you'll see the term. Make sure it's spring of the 17-18 school year. And then you'll see the classes. I believe you just will show your class. Obviously, I see what I see through my login, so yours will be just slightly different. It should just show your class. We're going to use Brother Fabrizio's class right now. So we're going to click on his name. And then we're going to click up here at the top. We're going to, so remember, please, to check that. And we're going to then click Give Assessment. So this will bring you back into the portal to the assessment that you may recall from last year when we gave it back in December. You'll recall it was an easy default. We were first Nephi to Alma 16. We're going to change that today. I do want to show you something, though. Please note this is the All Students tab. You could have the tab for Have LDS Account, or haven't taken the assessment, or need to retake, based on what you're trying to work on. And so all students is fine. I would click Have LDS Account. It's a little bit easier. If you look right here, you can see the students have LDS accounts. If a student does not have an LDS account, it will say no along here. And if you've got a tab for Have LDS Account, then it will send the student the assessment. Now, if I have a student who's not enrolled and is not attending seminary and it was moved and their name is still on the roll, Maybe the ward they've moved to has not pulled them into seminary, or they don't have it where they're at. For whatever reason, if there's a student that you do not want to give the assessment to, or what we're going to show you right now, a practice assessment, then you just uncheck their name. And so at that point, when you click Give Assessment, it will only go to the names who are checked. But in this case, we're going to check everybody's name. We're not going to actually give it. Up to the assessment, you're going to click the down button. And if you'll please note here to scroll down, these are the two assessments. We gave this one back in December. And we want to make sure when we click on the assessment, if you're giving the actual assessment, which we're not right now, that won't be done until May. But if you're going to give the actual assessment, you want to click on the one with belief and apply. So what that will do is it will give the assessment for Alma 17 through Moroni 10. And afterwards, it will give them the questions where they can rate themselves on their belief system and their application of doctrines and principles. That will go simply into the statistical reports. You will not see, you might be able to see, we'll go through it in a minute. But the students need to know that their name is not attached to that for the statistical report. What I wanted to show you today, though, if you're giving the assessment, by the way, if this is the assessment you're going to do, you click on With Belief and Apply. You click on Enable Online Assessment, at which point then the students have access to the assessment. What we're going to work on today is how to practice. So I'm going to go down here and let's click on 3rd Nephi 1, 3rd Nephi 11, and we're just going to pick one. I don't know if it's going to matter. Just showing you what it does to give a practice. And so at this point now, if you were to click Enable Online Assessment, it's going to give students access on their phones or their tablets in your classroom to take a 10-question assessment. Let me show you what the assessment looks like. It's not for a grade, it's just for them to practice. So you're going to read instructions before, and you're going to click Start. First question, what will the Lord do with the words spoken by his prophets? And you have your 3 choices. He'll fulfill most of the words. He'll fulfill any of the words they spoke. He'll fulfill all the words that he caused to be spoken by them. And so you'll click the correct answer and select Next. What truth can we learn from Satan's attempt to persuade the Nephites not to believe in the signs of the Lord's birth? God will send angels down to correct the lies. The temptations of Satan will stop when individuals witness miracles. When we face Satan's lies, we can choose to believe in Jesus Christ and be converted. And so as we go through and take these 10 questions, I'm going to jump to the 10th one now. Which of the following chapters gives an account of the Savior's ministry to one of the Nephites? At the conclusion of the assessment, now that they've taken all 10, you can see which ones I've answered and not answered. You just click Submit. All questions are not answered. Do you want to submit assessment? And so we click Yes. It would give them the answers to their assessment. And so this is a great way for you to practice and have students work with the assessment, going through little small sections. Let me back up to this if I can for a second and go into here. One other option you could do if you wanted to, because you can see you have these little groups to do. And there'd be a nice little class activity. I think it adds a little bit of variety as well. And here's an option to give them what might be just a pre-assessment. Alma 17 through Moroni 10. Again, I'm going to click on Preview Assessment because we're not going to give the assessment. If I wanted to give students the ability to take the pre-assessment or the practice assessment, I click Enable Online Assessment right now, in which it would give the students the ability to take the assessment. Again, these can be done at home. They can be done on a great Sabbath day activity. They can do it with their family. It's just a way for them to go through them and to practice or look through the doctrines and principles. I'm going to click Preview, at which point it gives me the instructions. Click Start, and here you see the number of questions that are there. What was the consequence of anti-Nephi Lehis becoming converted to the Lord? They never did fall away. Most were killed by the Lamanites. They saw the Savior. And so as you go through and work the toolbar, you can see all the questions they have. What was Moroni's simple invitation to know for yourself that the Book of Mormon is true? Read the book and ponder Lord's mercy, and then ask if it's true. Read the book, ask for yourself lots of questions as you read, then ask God if it's true. Read the book as quickly as possible, and then ask God if it's true. At the end of that, you'll click Submit, and then they'll go through it. Here's the Explain tab. Now, when they do this on their phones or on their computers, it has a minimum number of letters that will be done so that they could then click Evaluate My Response. And so, as they go through this word count, and we go through and make sure there's adequate number of content there. I believe it's some 40 words or something like that. Then what we would want to do is then click, it will then give the ability for them to evaluate my response. Now, mind you, it won't take very much for them to create this opportunity as they write their words down. It then will come a little more natural and easy as they try to explain it. And the 3 principles of acquiring spiritual knowledge, as this is in Doctrinal Mastery Core document, are act in faith, examine concepts and questions with eternal perspective, and seek further understanding through divinely appointed sources. Share an example of how you use one of these principles to resolve the question issue you faced. This is a learning assessment, and it may help to take some of these type of questions and give them to them beforehand in these practice environments so they can learn to do it. I guess it's not going to let me cheat by putting down just these letters. I'm well over the count for it. It's not even registering the count. And maybe it's the software doesn't let you do that. Maybe it doesn't like you. Maybe it has to see patterns of words. Oh, it's seeing that with one word. Okay, hold on. Let's break this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so it's going to have 20 words. It's going to have 20 words to write it. So then evaluate my response. You may have written something similar to one of these statements. I decided to act in faith and repent each day in my nightly prayers. I have noticed that I have the Spirit with me more, and I feel happier. And so it gives you some examples. And this is one in which they can't mess up. It's words and experience that you've used, the acquiring spiritual knowledge principle. And so at the bottom, they would simply mark yes or no. They did it or didn't do it. And so they'll be fine with that. At which point they've taken the assessment, they submit it, and it will give them their correct number of answers afterwards. When they click submit, it will say how many were correct and how many weren't. And it will register it, and you should then be able to see it as well. As we go back into here, let me go back to the front page. If Brother Fabrizio or a teacher were to click on this right here, it will then give them the test attempts, the score, the questions missed, which ones, like question 1, question 5, question 10, and the attention required if any was needed. And so it will give you a report there that will then help as you click on your name, the class that you administer. So as we work on that, I really think that giving the students a chance to do the assessments right now, these pre-assessments or weekly practice classes, will really benefit your students not only in becoming familiar with the software, but maybe able to take it in practice and knocking out any kinks you have so that when you do go to take the actual learning assessment, it will be taken care of. When you go back to the training page, I remind you there is a page here that has the online demonstration for you on administering it. For example, if you were to come into here and click on Administer the Online Assessment, la.ldeschurch.org, You're going to log in with your LDS account. You select your class that you teach in your program, and then click Give Assessment. Remember to make sure you've got the correct term in there. You'll make sure they have LDS accounts, enable it. You've clicked on the drop-down bar of what group you want to take, and then close. Now, you would want to copy this link to there and give it to them. Maybe you're going to email it to them or text it to them. But you also can just simply tell it to them. They can go to la.ldschurch.org. When they log in, it will take them to their test. Some teachers last semester had a problem with that. And so if you actually follow through with the /onlinetest/starttest.aspx, some teachers actually had a problem with this link. And so when the students clicked on this link, they were not able to take their assessment. But when they typed in the https://la.ldschurch.org, it took them directly to it. So as you do work with that, please be mindful and work with the link that you can do that. They click on all students afterwards. This is if you're going to print the assessment. Now, if you're not going to give the assessment online where students can take it at home, then you do need to get the printed assessment, at which point you would simply go to the exact same page we're at right now, click all students, and click print the assessment. Afterwards, it brings the assessment up, click print, you can go to the church's library, make the copies you need. And then go back and click the bubble sheets. And then you'll want to then click bubble sheets for your class. Now, there is a way, and you can study it on your own if you're interested in it. If you want to send and scan the bubble sheets over, you can do so. I really would just want to remind you that these students are digital students. They're very familiar with and used to digital programs. And they will do better with the online assessment. I know that that's difficult for us sometimes learning it. Some teachers have thought it's easier to give a printed assessment. It's not. The online assessment is much user-friendly. If you're wanting to review the assessment, we're just going to take a second on that. This is, again, the feature where you can go back and see how the students have done. You're going to go again to la.ldschurch.org. You're going to log in through your LDS account and make sure you've got the program in there that you know you need to be at. And select to view past class. You're going to click on that Book of Mormon. For you, it's the current class. But you could go back to a different year or look at a different one. And it'll show you that report. This will say for you, it will say Book of Mormon, Alma 16 through Mormon 9. But you can go back and look at different ones. If you click the View Class Report in the top right, it will then give you this really awesome feedback. It'll show you the graph. There's number of passed, number of needs to retake, and number not taken. It will show you which students statistically needed to go through which questions. And so that you can go back into class. If all your students got question 4 right and 7 right, there's no need to discuss that question. And here again, if you're in the 90s and you're talking about maybe one student missed that question, it could have been that they didn't read all the answers or they didn't understand, they didn't read the question carefully. It shows you that most of the students in that class have mastered the doctrine or principle behind that. What I would look at is any of these that are in that 76, 68, maybe the 80 range, and I would definitely go through and do any that are in the red. So as you go back to the class to discuss the assessment, you're going to discuss just the questions that you felt like might need to be reviewed as a class. And then look at the resources that help with the correct answer. And you're going to show them why it's the correct answer. Now, you can print this report And how great is that to give to a bishop, young men's president, and young women's president? To take this report and go back and give this to a ward council, or for the bishop to give to the ward council and have as a resource of are we teaching these principles. If a student does need to retake the assessment, it gives you an opportunity to see how many attempts you're making. And this will be the student's individual assessment, where in this case it shows just one wrong answer in the 30th question, and you've got scriptures to help them go see the correct answer. So this is, again, and the training resources that are on the Seminary Teachers website. It gives you an option of how to take the learning assessment, how to administer previous courses. If you are wanting to scan it, it gives you a way to do that, frequently asked questions. But you'll mainly do these that we've reviewed today: how to take the learning assessment, how to administer it, how to give how to access the review. And so the main resource right now is to go to la.ldschurch.org and begin to play with this opportunity. Allow students to practice and to make sure that they're understanding the doctrines and principles being taught in the classroom. You could, maybe I would suggest the next few weeks practicing with the weekly reviews, and then maybe after a week or two, maybe give the practice assessment on the first week of May, and the second week of May give the actual assessment. I would recommend having the assessments done by the second to third week of May, unless that you just feel like that's not enough time, that they need to wait for that third week of May if you're finishing up in June. So I hope this has helped. I hope being able to see it has helped. I'll send you also some download options. When you go back to the training resources, they actually have a PDF handout that you can have that will give you a step-by-step instruction to work through. And I'll send you that resource as well. And that way you'll be able to have that to work off of. I guess this one doesn't work for us right now. There we go. And so it gives you the option of here what we just went through, but just a step-by-step instruction with it. Let's try that administer one more time. There we go. And I think that will be a tool for you to be able to work off of. And I'll put that one on our Facebook page. That way you can grab that at any point in time that you want. And hopefully this has been able to help you out. More than anything, we'd like you just to practice this. Again, if you have any need for additional help, feel free to call your supervisor, call myself, and whoever we can to help you work through it. But more than anything, just practice. Go to la.ldschurch.org and just practice giving the assessment. And I think as the students experiment with it, that they'll find it very comfortable. They're used to these type formats. This isn't anything new to them. It's part of their education programs and other aspects of Canvas or things that they're doing with different school programs. And so it won't be anything new really to most of them. I would recommend, though, that if you're going to do the weekly practice, that maybe try it out. For example, give it to them to take for one of last week's or 2 weeks ago or something like that. And what again, Sunday could be a great opportunity for them to practice these or to look at them. And then give that practice assessment. If you have students that can't access it, you then have weeks to get this resolved through their LDS account. They have to access it through their LDS account. They cannot use their mom or dad's or siblings. It will connect to their transcript, and it will automatically go into the grade book. So when you give the assessment, the actual assessment, and we submit and it passes, and it's anything above a 75%, that percentage will automatically go into the grade book on WISE. As a reminder, a student has every opportunity to take as many as necessary to pass. If they do so and they don't pass the first time on their own, then I would go ahead and give them a chance to retake it, where, again, you go back to ldschurch.org, and give them a chance to retake the assessment. And after doing that, I would let mom and dad retake it with them or siblings. If that doesn't work, then maybe I would identify which questions they've missed, which you could do through the review, and then just discuss those questions with them. At that third time, if you're comfortable they've understood the questions you've reviewed with them and it makes sense for them and you know why, then you can manually put in 75% onto the grade book and the student passes it. As a reminder, any student who takes the learning assessment will pass the learning assessment, because it's our responsibility to work with them to help them to pass the assessments. So I hope we make sure that's one of the first things the students understand is they cannot and will not ultimately fail the assessment. They may not pass the first or second version of it, but they will ultimately pass it to where it takes away any stress. Please be mindful of any students that have learning disabilities or need accommodation. There's nothing wrong with students like that for taking the learning assessment the first time with mom and dad. So as you send this learning assessment off for them to take at home this semester, we'd encourage them to take it by themselves, but they're welcome to have mom and dad sit with them and go through the assessment with them. There's nothing wrong with that. This isn't something that we're trying to make difficult. It's supposed to assess whether or not they're learning the doctrines and principles and if they're applying it into their life. So I hope that helps. Again, if you need any more assistance, please contact your state supervisor or myself, and we'll be more than glad to help with it. We sure appreciate what you do, and thank you for your time and effort and how you go about doing what you're doing. And from there, we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Goodbye.